Newt Gingrich, all of a sudden, shaking everything up. In fact, according to a McClatchy-Maris poll, Newt Gingrich now in a near statistical tie with Barack Obama. 47 to 45, Obama's still leading just by a tiny bit, but Newt Gingrich is hot on his trail, and in some of the polls, he's either first or second among the Republicans. So now, of course, scrutiny has turned to Newt Gingrich. Now, look, we know a lot of his shenanigans from the past, the crazy Tiffany's bills for his wife, the leaving one of his wives while she had cancer, and serving her papers as she's in the hospital, all that stuff, right? And we'll get back to that as well. But then today, we have a new Newt Gingrich scandal. Well, it turns out that he had consulted Freddie Mac and Fannie Mae. Now, that seems a little curious, since that on the campaign trail, he's constantly criticizing Freddie Mac and Fannie Mae. In fact, he said politicians who dealt with them should be arrested. Now, you want to know how much Newt Gingrich made for his dealings with Freddie Mac and Fannie Mae? $1.6 to $1.8 million. Okay, now you remember Freddie Mac and Fannie Mae are the ones that guarantee a lot of our home mortgages. And they're this weird public-private mix so that basically they privatize the gains to people like Newt Gingrich, and then they make sure that all the losses are public on the taxpayer. It's outrageous. In fact, that's exactly what they hired Newt Gingrich to push forward. Now, let's get some more details on how much they paid him, right? He had two separate contracts. One ran from 1999 to 2002. That was just 5 months after he left being Speaker of the House. So incredibly important role in Washington, immediately gets hired afterwards. How much did they pay him? They paid him a monthly retainer of $25,000 to $30,000 a month. A month. Okay, that wasn't enough, so they went back and rehired him several years later, and that time they gave him a retainer of $600,000. Okay? So they asked Newt Gingrich, well, sounds like you were lobbying these guys that you've been criticizing. He said, lobbying? No, I wasn't lobbying. Here's a quote. He says, I do no lobbying of any kind. And I've offered strategic advice, and that's all I do. Oh, I see. Oh, my bad, dog. I thought you were lobbying. Turns out you're just offering strategic advice. By the way, that's some pretty expensive strategery, as Bush would say. Hey, Newt, what do you think? Oh, I think you should go this way a little bit, and then a little bit that way. Oh, here's $1.6 million. Get out of here, man. You know why they used you? They used you for all your contacts, of course. And in fact, they don't really mince their words on that. They report in Bloomberg News and then eventually at Huffington Post as well. The Freddie Mac officials told Bloomberg that Gingrich was asked to build bridges with Capitol Hill Republicans and help sell the mortgage company's public-private structure to conservatives. That's what they hired him for. So build bridges, meaning, hey, you know what? Establish relationships well enough so that we can lobby those Republicans. And furthermore, we need you to get it to a point where everybody's in on this public-private sphere, where they privatize the gains and make all the losses public. So Newt Gingrich, who has been saying that that's a terrible idea, of course, behind the scenes, turns out was helping sell all of his Republican buddies on just that idea, okay? It doesn't get any more hypocritical than that. Now, he's going to go on Sean Hannity's program. It's the friendliest show in the country for Republicans. So Hannity's going to try to let him do a response any way that he likes it and frame it in any way he wants to, because this has now become a big problem for him. Even so, watch as Newt Gingrich's smile changes to a grimace in the middle of the question. Watch.
So, one last question. I wanted you to explain the $300,000 you said you gave to Freddie Mac that they did not take your advice. You were
Sure.
not a lobbyist for them?
No, I have never been a lobbyist for anybody. In fact, my contracts exclude me from lobbying. I refuse to go back to Capitol Hill as a lobbyist. I offer strategic advice. I listen to people tell me what their concerns are, and I try to give them advice on how to solve it.
Oh, I see. Oh, just strategic advice. Yeah, I'm sure that that's exactly what went down. And I love that and $300,000, that's what he's talking about. That's not true. It's $1.6 to $1.8 million. Every part of Newt Gingrich's story isn't true. One more clip here from Hannity.
And you gave advice to Freddie Mac and they did not take it?
That's correct. But I also want to say that there's a confidentiality agreement there that I can't go into detail with. But I never did any lobbying for anyone in the years I was out of office.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay, so 3 different things there. One, he says, technically I didn't do any lobbying, so I must be innocent. Second of all, I'd love to tell you more about this, but golly gee willikers, there's that confidentiality agreement, and I just, tip of my tongue. And you know what? I'll tell you what, you're right in your framing, Sean. I told these guys not to do those things. What did they turn around and did them anyway and cost the taxpayers so much money? Well, that's not what the insiders that talk to Bloomberg News say. In fact, here's a quote from Bloomberg News. None of the former Freddie Mac officials who spoke to Bloomberg said Gingrich raised the issue of the housing bubble or was critical of Freddie Mac's business model. So behind the scenes, he's saying, oh, your business model rocks. Yeah, of course. And in fact, he told them, hey, you know what? This is a good way to get more home ownership to minorities and people that don't have as much money. That's exactly what he criticizes the Democrats for today. Okay, it doesn't get any worse than this. And then he tries a second time for a new excuse. He says to Huffington Post, quote, I personally think that there are circumstances where government-sponsored enterprises are legitimate. You go back and look at the Transcontinental Railroad, you look at the rural electric co-ops, there are a lot of ways to organize activity in this country. So now the second approach is, what government programs? I love government programs. Remember the railroads? Yeah. Well, when Freddie Mac and Fannie Mae were paying me, I loved government programs. Now that I got busted on it, I got a disclosure agreement problem, and I told them not to do that, but even though none of them say that, but hey, I got a confidentiality agreement, and I'm sorry, I can't say anything about that. Oh, come on, Newt, who are you kidding? But here comes the killer quote. This is what Newt Gingrich had said about Democrats and politicians overall who were dealing with Freddie Mac and Fannie Mae. Quote, well, in Chris Dodd's case, go back and look at the countryside deals. In Barney Frank's case, go back and look at the lobbyists he was close to at Freddie Mac. All I'm saying is that everybody in the media who wants to go after the business community ought to start to go after the politicians who have been at the heart of the sickness which is weakening this country. Isn't it? Isn't it? The politicians that have been at the core of this sickness in the country, which is those politicians get paid to do whatever these guys want so they can make more money. So, classic case of Republican projection when he was talking about, and in that case he was referring to how Barney Frank should be arrested. In reality, he's talking about himself. Because get a load of Newt Gingrich. Understand that he knows, it's not like he doesn't know that he took over $1.5 million from Freddie Mac and Fannie Mae. You might not know, but he knows. And as he's talking about that, he says, oh, Barney Frank should be arrested for dealing with Freddie Mac. Because he knows how guilty he is. And he's projecting it onto Barney Frank. I'm telling you, man, there are other Republicans that can win other awards. For the award of hypocrisy, Newt Gingrich stands at the very top.